tells you something, doesn't it? I said, well, it tells you that the cowboy builders, if that's how they were, have got more heart than Robert Jenrick.
Yourselves is that if you are somebody who is in this country and you are from a Commonwealth country, you don't have to be a British citizen. You can be on a student visa, a 1-year visa, 2-year visa, 5 years indefinite leave to remain. You should, as a form of ID, and use to vote against this horrible government. So everybody that is affected, whether you're resident in this country fully or not, I encourage you not only to vote, but to encourage them to get registered to vote.
Energy bills, the NHS failing to fund that properly, and other public services, and that's why they're whipping up racism. That's really important. And one of the consequences, our partners for mobilising and joining us here today, and PCS has been fantastic in campaigning for a fairer refugee and pushbacks of the boats in the channel and opposing the Rwanda policy. So thank you to PCS for everything that you've done. And I'd like to welcome
A government in trouble is trying the old trick of hoping to shore up support by blaming migrants for its own shortcomings. This is playing with fire, encouraging hostility towards desperate people. It's currently ricocheting, that's the way he put it, through Parliament. It offers no answers to this question. So the very thing that they say it's going to answer, it doesn't answer. The bill proposes that unless an asylum seeker arrives in the UK on what the government is calling a legal route, their claim for asylum should be rejected automatically, and they should be sent to suffering of refugees, he means himself, during and after the Second World War. All across Europe, right-wing parties are seeking to exploit refugees for political gain. It's important to remember the Alternative for Deutschland, the AfD in Germany, an anti-immigration neo-Nazi party. And they've had successes, let's remember. The vote in France, Le Pen's vote, was one of the highest votes for a far-right party.
It destroys all hope for the right of refugees to seek protection in the UK if they arrive. If people to Rwanda, locking people up, simply to seek safety, these policies are not just cruel, but also stay after day. People like our friend who was an Afghan pilot who desperately tried to access the routes of escape promised to him by the UK military. To our community and to our economy. It's not impossible. In fact, it's not even that complicated as that lot would want you to think. We basically have a desperate land.
A reminder that those fleeing from war and persecution do not choose to flee or to expose themselves to dangerous sea crossing.
And thank you to all of you for being here today. As Sabi said, it's so important that you keep showing your opposition because, you know, we get the feeling that a bill like this that is completely unworkable is meant to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to whip up anti-migrant sentiment ahead of an election coming up soon. That's all it is, because you've seen from their Rwanda plans, from all of the different issues that they've tried to raise in terms of migration, not only are they completely wrong, but they are completely impractical and often against international law. Now, even one of the reasons why you found MPs for 3.5 hours walking around those lobbies 18 times last week is because they saw fit to vote down even the most simple amendments that the Lords put in to make it less bad. And one of these, put down by Baroness Shami Chakrabarti, was simply to read the legislation in line with human rights legislation. And they said no to that. just basic human rights legislation. The thing that we as a country go about and preach right across the world is not relevant, apparently, to people that come here to seek refuge. Just how awful and disgusting are the government that we have there right now. So it's very, very important that as they attempt to raise and whip up this anti-migrant sentiment, that we make it clear that as a community, as a British public, that actually we don't agree with them. We do believe that those people that are seeking refuge, sometimes in some of the worst situations, deserve an absolute right to make their home here. We do know what's happening in terms of the immigration detention estate, and that a lot of the money is being funneled to their mates in those large companies that continuously run roughshod over the rules when they're being given large chunks of money to take care of asylum seekers. We know what's happening. The public are aware, but not just that. We support refugees. Refugees are welcome here. If they come here, if they are seeking sanctuary, it is not just our moral but our legal duty, according to international law, that they should have the right to do so. And anything that they continue to vote on in there is going to be challenged. And we right outside here and right across the country are going to stand up against it. So please, please keep making your voices heard, because we want to make it absolutely clear to them that there are way more of us than there are of them with their awful views. So thank you very much. And as I've said, please continue to make your voices clear. And actually, make sure you vote at the next general election.
Thanks, Abby. I'll stand on the gas because I'll fall off that step, otherwise. I want to first of all start by thanking everyone for giving up their time and coming out to this demonstration tonight, because it's really important that everybody makes their voice heard to stop this latest piece of disgraceful legislation passing through that house over the road. PCS represents workers right across the civil service, including in the Home Office group. And our members are sick and tired of the hostility visited upon them by their employer. They're currently engaged in an industrial dispute, having seen their living standards forced further and further down year on year, their job security ripped up, their terms and conditions destroyed. But that's not the only thing that they're fighting back on, because they're sick and tired of having to work in a hostile environment where they're asked time and time again by the government to break the law and to subject refugees who come to this country in seeking safety to the most horrendous policies imaginable. Our members, I'm proud to say, have said to the government and said to their employer and said to ministers, we are just not prepared to countenance the approach on the hostile environment any longer. And they sought the help of their trade union in order to help them make that fight back. We've been involved in litigation on the pushbacks policy, on the disgraceful conditions down at the Manston intake unit, and also most recently on Rwanda. And we're pleased to say that that litigation has rolled back the worst excesses of the government's policy. But it's not enough, and that's why we've been proud to work with Care for Calais to develop a policy pamphlet that is the answer to the dangerous crossings in the Channel. What people need to be given is the same access to safe passage that we've given to other countries across the world, most notably Ukraine and Hong Kong. Our pamphlet gives the government a ready-made policy where they can provide people with safe passage and stop the Channel crossings in an instant. That they refuse to do so tells you all you need to know about their approach, because it's not about stopping the boats for them. This is the battleground on which they're going to fight the next general election. And the reason for that is they've spent 40 years shoveling money from the poorest people in society to the richest. And they only have one card left to play in order to deflect from their catastrophic failings on living standards for people in this country. And that's the race card. And they're going to play it for all it's worth between now and the election. And this bill that is passing through the House at the moment is simply part and parcel of that. So it's our job as anti-racists to say that we're not prepared to countenance that approach. It's our job to take the argument into every single community in which we live, every single workplace in which we operate, and win the battle for hearts and minds, to say that we shall not be deflected from your failings. We shall not demonise refugees. We will not fall for the race card. And it's in the interest of us as a working class to stand together in solidarity with refugees and say we have a common oppressor, that is this government, and we must defeat them time and time again in Parliament, in the courts, on the picket lines, out on the streets, and build a better world in this country for everybody, no matter where they're from. Solidarity.